Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, Attorney Kim Hegwood with Hegwood Law Group, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning and welcome to Life Happens with me, Kim Hegwood, and today I have a very special guest and friend, Mary Jane Williams. And Mary Jane is with Family to Family Network, so we're going to talk a little bit about that first, and then we're going to talk kind of reverse a little bit about how you got involved. And so can you tell our listeners, because most people may not be very familiar with what Family to Family Network is?
So Family to Family Network is a parent organization that's devoted to creating success for children and youth with disabilities by empowering their families. And we do that through information, referrals, training, and support as they sort of navigate those complex systems that they find themselves in once their child receives a diagnosis. Almost everybody on my staff is a parent of a child with a disability, so we can sort of relate really well to families and help them navigate everything.
And so having said that, how did you get involved in Family to Family Network?
You know, back when my son was younger, I remember, I was at the mother-toddler group and somebody said, Mary Jane, don't you think there's something wrong with your son? And at that moment, my heart sank and I gazed at my beautiful blue-eyed 3-year-old playing by himself, and I knew they were right. He played inside while the rest were out. He said one word here or there while the others were stringing along sentences, but I didn't know what to do. And I picked up my son and put him in the car and drove home in tears. And I just felt so alone. And I called my doctor and she referred me to a developmental pediatrician. And 2 months later, I sat in his office and heard the words autism. So now I had to figure out what was the next step and how was I going to fix my son? And that was when we entered sort of the world of special education. And I was confused and assumed the school was going to do everything necessary to prepare my son for kindergarten. And I didn't understand the 30 pages of paperwork they handed to me. And it wasn't until I found Family to Family Network that I realized there was support. And I learned that my son wasn't his label and that he had other gifts and abilities. And so, when I joined Family to Family Network 25 years ago, as a parent, just coming in to get information, I learned a lot from the people that were there before me and learned about the special education system, and I gained my own confidence. And that's really sort of how I got involved with Family to Family so long ago, when my son was 5 years old back then. But yeah, he's 30 now. So yeah, so Family to Family has been around for a long time. I mean, he works now, I would never thought that was going to be possible back when I talked to that doctor, you would never think that. So, I mean, that's what we try to give families hope, and really help them understand that their child can do something.
I think education and information are hugely important. And because so many people are so overwhelmed, they're like you are confused, have no idea what to do. They're getting different information. Everybody has an opinion, some good, not so good. So it really makes it very difficult for parents. So I'm glad you're on the show today to kind of help things along. And so what would you say that your primary services are for parents? And before you answer that question, because I don't want to forget, what ages do you work with families? Is there a particular age group?
When we first started out, we were mostly helping families who had elementary school age children. But as our own children have aged, now that age range sort of has expanded. Mostly we work with families that have children. By the time they find us, most of their children are 3 and entering the public school system. And they stay with us until their kids graduate. And many of our families now still come back to us asking questions about adult life and how to get services there too, and how to navigate Social Security and Medicaid and all those adult things. But education is our primary focus. So that 3 to 21 is our primary focus.
Okay. So what kind of different of your primary service as far as education, what can someone expect, saying, if they call you up, what kind of different things do you do that would be beneficial to me as a parent with a child with a disability?
So most families call us because they're in some sort of crisis situation. And once we start talking to them, we sort of open a case for them and find out more information. And that's when we really learn that they need to learn other things too. We can help them solve that initial crisis, whether it's in education or finding a doctor or whatever. But then we also, encourage them to participate in our training events, mostly because we got to learn about all these things. We've got to learn about the disability as a parent, and then learn about the education system and how to navigate that process. Education is only free service that's available for individuals with disabilities. Nothing else is free except education. So you need to make the best of it. And many families don't realize how to navigate and work through that system to make it good things happen for their kids.
So you talked early when you were telling your story, that you thought the school district was going to be able to do a whole lot for you. And so I guess and I find in my practice that a lot of families are very frustrated with the school district because they're finding that they're not doing as much as they thought they would. What can a parent expect or should expect from the school district? And then I'm going to ask the second question in a minute.
So, I think you have to build a partnership with your school district, and when you can trust them and they can trust you, then and you've got to learn the special education process. And once you can show them that you understand how the process works and you know your rights as a family, you're more likely to get those services. Of course, we also have to realize that it's an education model. This is not a medical model. Education is different from going to, say, therapy at a therapist in a therapy center. It's going to be more intensive and more high quality at a therapy center for speech services. Speech has an educational model in the school system. So it's got to be centered around getting those services and how will that help you educationally or your child educationally. And I think families forget that. The other thing is we have to sort of balance all those things we think our child needs to the most important thing. If your child isn't talking, you need to focus on communication and communication goals, and you can probably let the other stuff go. You've got to really sort of focus on the really important things, because the more goals and objectives you have with your child, the less likely the school is going to be able to accomplish all of those, versus if you've got some really good ones that are focused on some really important points, it's going to be a lot easier for teachers and pull out staff, et cetera, to accomplish those goals. I just find sometimes parents want too much, and you've got to narrow that focus and really concentrate on those big things. I mean, that's important. Your child isn't going to get an education until you work on communication and work on behavior. And if you can get those down and get some services in place. The other thing, parents don't look at the IEP. They don't read the IEP and don't look at the paperwork, and they don't understand that there's all these little checkbox in there that mean something. And especially for families who might have a child with autism, there's an autism supplement. You don't know how many families call us and don't realize it's there. And that can help in so many ways. So it's really learning about that paperwork and working through the system and understanding the process.
So if I heard you correctly, the school district is very focused on those needs of the child that can further their education.
Mm-hmm. So
having said that, what kinds of things do you as a group, as an organization, because the school's got kind of the education thing going, what other areas do y'all focus on that can help that parent for the things that the school's not going to cover?
So the other thing we like to tell families is to really get signed up on the Medicaid waiver waiting list. The state of Texas has a 15-year waiting lists for adult services, and they're called long-term care services. And a lot of families think that, oh, my child may not need that. Oh, we have medical coverage. Well, at some point, my husband retired. I mean, you don't have medical coverage anymore. What's gonna take that place? And it's really important for families to get on those wait lists for those long-term care services, like attendant care or respite, or just things that, if you had an elderly parent, what are those long-term care services that they need? You're going to need that for your child with a disability too. So mom and dad, we're not going to be here every day. Get them on those wait lists now when they're young. That's one thing we really talk about with families. The other thing is to have a vision for your child, helping them see that their kids can do something and create that vision for the future. Too often, I think we plod through life and don't think about what's going to happen in the future. And we're actually going to be starting a program here pretty soon, planning for future success. Now, what's it called? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. It's a specific grant we had, but it's really focused on creating that vision and then looking at the financial aspect of that as well. So, yeah, it'll be nice to be able to get younger families creating that vision for their child with the future and looking at, well, what does my child need to make that future happen, and trying to make a plan for that. So that's really, I think it's really important as family, as even for the IEP process, when you have a future vision for your child, that can guide everything that happens within the individual education program and what happens at school. So it's really, if you don't have a vision, it's sort of like going on a trip and just wandering aimlessly for the next 15 years. So, yeah. So that's one thing, that's one way they can create success. It's just being able to create that bigger vision for their child.
So what do you think do you think that's the biggest thing a parent can do, is just creating that success for their children?
I think creating that vision is very important. Learning about the special education system and making sure that they understand the process. And people can call us or email us, and we'll help them understand the process. You don't have to pay an advocate to do that. We believe families are their own best advocates. At some point, there's advocates out there that are going to help you with the school system, but once you get to adult services, you're on your own. So it's good to practice those skills now while your kids are in school. So yeah, it's really important about learning to become an advocate for your child and being able to speak up for their needs, and their needs, not just your wants, their actual needs. So
yeah, no one knows your child as well as you do.
Exactly.
They don't, and so that you getting good training to be an advocate for your child is always the best thing that you can do. So
well, and every child is different. So every child has different needs. And so one kid with autism is not going to have the same as another kid with autism. I've got two, I know. So yeah, it's and being able to plan for that and use that IEP to help make that dream a reality.
So now that we've kind of been talking about all of this, training and things, all the help you can do for parents, what do you have coming up? Are your classes and trainings, are they online? Are they recorded? Can they tell us how a parent can get that information from you?
So we can go to our website and go to our events pages. We have a support group that meets every Monday night, and that's online right now. It's virtual. The first Monday of the month is for families who have adult children with disabilities. The second Monday of the month is for families who speak Spanish. The third Monday of the month is for families who have children in junior high and high school. And then the fourth Monday of the month is for families that have, younger kids, elementary and younger. And then we also have training events. We're doing an every other Wednesday series. People can just sign up. That's online now too. We're still doing a lot through Zoom. Those are all recorded and they're on our YouTube channel. And then in June, we're actually going to have a special Creating a Meaningful Life series every Tuesday, and that will be online. And we're bringing in some national presenters from all different walks of life, but really focusing on creating that meaningful life for your child or young adult with a disability. And those will be online too. We still haven't gone back to the in-person thing yet.
Well, that sounds exciting. I mean, think of all the things that, that you are doing now that you weren't doing 2 years ago, so.
Exactly. I think it was things we had talked about doing for a long time, and COVID sort of pushed us into that realm. So it's actually a good thing.
It's amazing that some of the benefits of this pandemic,
Exactly,
call it benefits, but they've streamlined a lot of our court processes. They've made they've made information a lot more accessible because it's forced us to kind of push things online. And we do virtual workshops now as well, just because it's easier for people. So I think it really is, is very helpful, in that aspect of it. And so, do you have, I know I was reading an article, and I'm sorry to kind of throw this at you. I was reading an article that the problem that a lot of families are having because of, things going online is they don't have access to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, is there things that that y'all can do, or ways for them to get access that you're aware of? I know I kind of threw that out of left field, but I was just thinking about that.
No, I know a lot of the school districts, if you tell them, they'll send a hotspot home, and you can't have it forever, and they give you so many hours or minutes a month. But they do send those hotspots home. I know A-Leaf has done it. Katie's done it. I think Houston ISD has done it. They've sent equipment home. I know even in Katie, which you think would be higher income access to all this stuff, they gave out like 10,000 devices for online learning this year. So I know school districts have that available, and it's just important to communicate that to your school district. I don't have internet. I don't have a laptop for my son or daughter to access. And then if a child is not being successful, then you need to think about other ways to make things happen. I know for some kids, it's good to go back to school. I mean, the class size is smaller. You're going to get more individualized attention. So there's a toss up there to think about.
And well, that's good, because I didn't think about the fact that, they could send that stuff home. So that's good information, because another parent might not think that either. Because I know they sent the laptops home with my grandkids, when everybody was virtual, but they took them back to school when they went back to school. So they don't have them at home, so they have the ability to access the internet, with the stuff that I have. But that is really good information. So I'm glad you said that, and I'm glad I asked the question. So.
Yes.
All right. So if somebody wants to find you, how do they find you?
So they can go to our website, familytofamilynetwork.org, or they can email us at info at familytofamilynetwork.org, or they can call us at 713-466-6304. And, I've got people here who will answer the phone and help you with whatever you need to find out. There's lots of us here, so. Well, not lots of us, but.
Perfect. And so perfect. Super, super good information. I'm so excited that you were on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks for highlighting Family to Family Network. We
not a problem. You have a great rest of your day and great weekend.
Thanks. You enjoy your weekend too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.